Hey gang, I want to show you a demonstration of Metro Micro. First of all, I don't endorse Metro Micro. It's another taxpayer-funded program that is a competitor to Uber and Lyft. However, you and I pay for it because it's only $1, and the rest of the cost of Metro Micro is funded by taxpayer funds. However, my purpose of showing you this video is to show you how we have very wasteful spending here in Burbank. We have the Burbank bus, which costs huge amounts of money and almost always runs empty. And then Metro Micro is a complete replacement for Burbank bus. So here I have, I'd like to get a ride somewhere. I'm going to put in a starting address, then I'm going to put in an ending address, both in Burbank. And then I'm going to schedule a ride. Let's say I need to get there by, 10 a.m. Or I need a ride by 10 a.m. So then I'm going to click Find Rides. And then I can tell Metro Micro if I need a couple passengers, just one, if I have a bike, if I need help with a wheelchair, or if I have other requirements. And then I'm going to click OK. Then you'll notice that in the next screen, it'll pop up and it'll show us some options of which rides are available. And it picks up within 20 to 30 minutes of my requested time. And for $1, I can arrive there, pay $1, and I can arrive there in a reasonable amount of time. Now, you might say, if you own a car, you might say, well, that's not very, very fast. And I'm like, well, if you've ever ridden public transportation, you know you have to follow a schedule. And Metro Micro has a similar kind of a program. Now, in my opinion, I really feel that people have been duped, right? There are no government programs that I know of in Burbank that have been eliminated because that means somebody's going to lose a job. And people don't want to lose jobs. So what they do is they just keep doing the same things over and over again, whether it makes sense or not. And unless somebody speaks up about the wasteful spending, if you don't ride the bus, you don't know that they're always running empty. So whether or not you take a Burbank bus or take any public transportation, you should be concerned because you'll notice that if you're paying high rent, and I use the word high as a relative term because rent is what it is. It's market forces. But if your opinion is that your rent is high, you might want to consider that a very large portion of your rent goes to property taxes. And if you're a property owner, you already know that a really big amount of your money goes out every year in property taxes. Well, the good old Burbank bus and the beautiful Metro Micro, two services that are completely duplications of each other, are paid for by your taxes. The riders don't pay for it. $1 doesn't even begin to cover the cost of the vehicle, the insurance, the fuel, the driver, the benefits, the health care of the driver, and all the people that run the program, and all those nice people in the office, and the human resources department for management services, all these different things. So let's look at the city's budget and look at Burbank Bus 2021 to 2022, and just keep in the back of your mind that demonstration I gave you about Metro Micro. And then look at what it costs to operate a local bus service that runs empty most of the time. Keep that in mind. It runs empty most of the time. Next time you see a Burbank bus, look carefully and you'll see it runs empty most of the time. Now, the city will tell you that this is the way things have always been done, and it's funded by all these different complicated programs, and these are the things we're required to do, and all those things they say. You'll see here that the Burbank's city bus cost $8.9 million in fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Okay, let's move on. So in this next chart, I pulled up a copy of the adopted budget, and this is the budget at a glance. And it's important to note where all the money comes from. When I tell people that our budget here in Burbank is unbalanced, the city will tell you that they're now looking at a balanced budget. I'm like, no, they're not. It's a complete falsehood. It's really a misleading statement, because what happens is you, as a Burbank resident, when you go to buy something, you're paying a little extra than your neighbor. Did you notice that when you're in Los Angeles, you're paying 9.5% sales tax, and when you're in Burbank, you're paying 10.25% sales tax? Well, that's because we have a very hefty, nice big hamburger helping local sales tax that is added to shore up our budget deficit. So it's a balanced budget with an extra hamburger helping. We're borrowing Peter to pay Paul. You'll also know that you'll also notice that when you go and you look at your water and power bill, you'll also see the thing called in lieu transfer. In lieu transfer is up to approximately 7% that's transferred off your power and water bill to pay for all these programs, because that money goes directly to the general fund. It has nothing to do with the delivery of your water and power. So for most cities, they get their money from these different taxes and fees, but you'll notice that in Burbank, we have this big, humongous sales tax section. A portion of sales taxes from state sales tax go to Burbank, but a very goodly portion of our budget is operated by a local sales tax that people in North Hollywood don't even pay. All right, let's move on. So if you want to take a look at your power bill, next time you look at your power bill, you're going to see a thing called the in lieu of tax. This is charged at 7% on your electric bill. And you're going to say, well, what sounds like a very important thing. It's sort of French, isn't it? Well, in lieu tax is a fancy way of saying we're running an unbalanced budget, so we got to take money from you and put that somewhere else. Now, that's on top of the fact that the Assembly Bill 1890 requires that the Burbank Water and Power take 2.87% of your bill and use it to pay for other people's power if they can't afford it, or social welfare programs or community programs. And about $2 million of that money goes to pay for utility bills for people who state that they can't afford their power bill. So anyway, the in lieu charges that you're seeing, 7% goes to the general fund and street lighting fund. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Shouldn't you be able to operate that on all those regular taxes we just talked about before? Yeah, of course. But because the city has an unbalanced budget, they take a very large percentage of the what's called the in lieu tax from your bill. Now, I had sued the city to stop this transfers, but then they put up a ballot measure and said, well, if we don't have this money, seniors will be on the street. I'm like, most of the seniors I know in Burbank are millionaires. Most. So most of the people I know in Burbank over the age of 55 are millionaires. Think about that for a second. So when they talk about senior services and all the nutrition and all those things, we can get into that on another video. A lot of that is just flim-flam. So we recommend that you reach out to your city elected officials and ask them to end the BurbankBus program entirely, completely mothball the program. The vehicles can be sold off to another, business or location. I'm sure that somebody would like to have them. Maybe they can sell them to Metro Micro, but your property taxes, your rent are already contributing to the Metro Micro program. And that Metro Micro program is a very expensive program, and it's costing you a lot of money. And, you are already paying for a limousine service on demand for people that want to go around Burbank and they want to get around town. You can go, if you look right here, you can see that Metro Micro operates 7 days a week, and you can go and hang out in all kinds of places. Look at that big, beautiful map about Metro Micro. Why in the world would you ever agree to pay? Keep in mind, a gun to your head, because taxes are a gun to your head. You cannot take and say no to pay for BurbankBus. $9 million, $8.9 million. So with this map shows you Metro Micro's service area, and you have no choice. You're paying double. You're paying for empty buses that run around town. And then on top of that, you're also paying for property tax, or in your case, it might be rent. You're paying for higher rents because the county keeps taking your money to pay for Metro Micro. And these programs will keep expanding. Do you feel like you really understand taxes? It's hard to understand, right? Take a look at the debt clock. I mean, if you look at the debt clock and you see what the national debt clock is saying, you'll see that the average federal debt to GDP in 2000 was $58%, and the current GDP debt, debt to GDP, is 128%. Now you go, well, how's that even possible? Well, because we keep printing money, and eventually this is going to implode. Spending is now 40.52%. So that's right now. If you go back and you look in historically, and you look, back in time 22 years ago, spending to GDP ratio was 33.28%. So as time marches on, folks, the government keeps taking more and more of your paychecks. So if you wonder why your paychecks are so small, it's actually that you don't earn. It's not that you're not earning a good amount of money. It's that the government keeps growing your programs, and it is important for you, if you really want to see change, to speak up. It's ultimately at the ballot box, but right now you can go back to the city of Burbank and say, look, I don't want to pay for limousines, empty limousines for Burbank residents. Nobody's riding the Burbank bus, couple of people, and Metro Micro is available already. I don't support Metro Micro either. It's another competitor to Uber and Lyft, but you and I pay for that, so we're subsidizing it. But regardless, even if it's both bad situations, you got to pick one or the other. I say pick the county and let them continue, riding around in their Metro Micro. I'd say contact the county supervisor and tell them to eliminate that program too. But right now, we've got to work towards eliminating the local sales tax. It's hurting our businesses. It increases your cost of living, and we need to eliminate in lieu transfers. It means that your utility bill is costing more, and you got people that aren't making good decisions. If you were going to make a good decision, you would just cut all the needless spending.